Where is the justice? Assistant State Attorney Jack Campbell is vying to become the next second Judicial State Attorney in the 2016 election. These are Assistant State Attorney Jack Campbell's friends. How so? Because they all played a key role in plots and schemes that Jack Campbell concocted against the juvenile defendant in adult court that Jack Campbell was prosecuting. For instance, let's look at Dewan J. Williams, an already convicted felon. Mr. Williams pulled armed robberies on 2 local Tallahassee banks in 2012. Thanks to the Southeast Regional Fugitive Task Force and the Tifton County Sheriff's Office in Tifton, Georgia, Mr. Williams was apprehended without incident. Mr. Williams was soon booked into the Leon County Jail on May 23, 2012. In June 2012, after his first meeting with State Attorney Investigator Jason Newland, Mr. Williams was immediately released from the Leon County Jail and then provided with money and other special items from Leon County Sheriff's Office and the State Attorney's Office. After the money was spent, Mr. Williams was charged by Gadsden County officials with armed home invasion robbery, with kidnapping, forgery, and a laundry list of other charges. Listen to the other charges for yourself.
Okay, Mr. Shippey, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. You currently have 4 separate pending cases in Leon County. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in addition to what you have pending in Leon County, you also have another case pending in Gadsden County. Is that correct?
Yes.
The Gadsden County case, you have 4 counts. You're charged with home invasion robbery with a firearm. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
You have a response, or would you like to approach?
I do. It's completely permissible cross-examination.
Overruled.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And with that particular charge, you face up to a life sentence. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
You also are charged with kidnapping. Is that right?
Yes.
And you face up to a life sentence in that case, in that charge as well, right?
Yes.
Additionally, you're charged with aggravated battery causing great bodily harm with a deadly weapon. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
You aware that you face up to 30 years in prison on that charge?
Yes.
And finally, in that Gadsden County case, you're charged with grand theft as well, right?
Yes.
The allegations are you committed that after you got out on bond. Isn't that true?
Yes.
In Leon County, you have 2 separate cases in which you're charged in each case with robbery. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And those are bank robberies?
Yes.
And you face up to 15 years in prison on each of those. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Then you have 2 additional cases in which you're charged with multiple counts of criminal use of personal identification information and grand theft. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And each of those, you're facing up to 5 years in prison on each of those
Yes.
counts. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Yes.
In Florida, how many times have you been convicted of a felony?
I've been convicted of 2 felonies in Florida.
Did you have 2 separate cases in which you were charged with 3 separate counts in which you were convicted of those felonies?
Yes.
So you have 3 felony convictions in Florida, is that correct?
No, I have 2. It's a burglary and a forgery.
And the burglary case is also dealing in stolen property as well, right?
Yes.
So that would be actually 3 separate convictions for each count then, right?
Yes.
That's the way we count them. And you also have a felony conviction up in New Jersey as well, right?
Yes.
So overall you have 4 prior felony convictions?
Yes.
At the time of Mr. Williams incurring those other charges in Gadsden County, Mr. Williams had not yet provided the incriminating testimony needed in the plot Assistant State Attorney Jack Campbell concocted in his ongoing case that led to Mr. Williams being released from the Leon County Jail in 2012. Watch and listen how Assistant State Attorney Jack Campbell tells Circuit Judge Jackie Fulford how he spent his weekend working to get DeJuan Williams a private attorney paid for by Tallahassee citizens' tax dollars. Please watch and listen.
Your Honor, if I may, I believe Mr. Williams is in the courthouse at this time, and it would probably be best to go ahead and start moving the mechanics now on this issue. I don't want to continue next week's murder trial, but that's what we would be dealing with because of this conflict. I mean, that's the issue. I can't proceed without him, and if he decides to not testify because he's unrepresented, he's facing numerous serious charges at this point.
Yeah, I have my secretary trying to get the motion in order. You've already withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've talked to Mr. Alex Morris this weekend. I also talked to Mr. Ward. Both of them are on the Capital Conflict Council. Mr. Morris is scheduled to be in front of Judge Hankinson at 10:30 this morning, but he's told me that if I called him, he would certainly make himself available to the court, but I think it may require a special order for compensation for Mr. Morris to be able to, since it's non-capital, to get him on there at this speed.
I don't know that. Do I have a right to just pick who the lawyer's going to be? I think the clerk has to assign them randomly or however, like in turn or something, don't they?
Your Honor, I know I've dealt with in cases before in extraordinary situations where where literally we've walked down the hallway and drafted. I've had judges order defense attorneys to do it.
Now watch and listen how Assistant State Attorney Jack Campbell and Public Defender Nancy Daniels discuss how they can manipulate the pay code to get the private attorney Jack Campbell selected for Mr. Williams paid due to the fact that the private attorney is not registered with the state to provide representation on such cases as Mr. Williams. Please watch and listen.
And that's what I'm basically going to be asking the court to do is to...
Well, I'm going to need Mr. Williams and Mr. Morris present for that.
Right,
So.
and that's what I'm going to ask for, and perhaps Ms. Daniels, because as far as compensation, my recommendation would be that because you're ordering them, either it'd be paid for either JQC, I think that's the right organization that normally pays them, or by Ms. Daniels' office for Mr. Morris's, because once again, we are dealing with an emergency situation where, a double homicide, it would frustrate a lot of our ability to proceed. So that's my recommendation, is if we do it that way, perhaps we can sidestep and make sure that both Mr. Morris is compensated for his work and that we have lawyers and we can proceed with, on this trial. I'll call Mr. Morris right now and leave the floor.
Yeah, we need to get Mr. Williams. Do we know where he is? Yeah, know where he's at?
Should be on the way upstairs.
Okay.
But in case he is, probably have to keep him somewhere out of area until we get ready to do it.
Okay.
Judge, there have been instances where in an emergency situation, a certain lawyer is available and the court can appoint him and we can work out that payment with the JAC. I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay.
Could we approach, just
You
to
sure can.
give you a little more
Sure.
context here?
Sure.
Do you want me to get on this?
Yes.
The citizens of Tallahassee and the 5 additional counties that make up Florida's 2nd Judicial Circuit deserve a state attorney that won't spend his weekends making special provisions with private attorneys using taxpayer dollars for previously convicted felons. Garbage is waste. Willie Meggs is garbage, and a vote for Jack Campbell would be a waste. Please don't recycle Willie Meggs' garbage. We must protect our children against predators operating as judicial officials. Injustice is not justice at all. Wrongful convictions are not merit for successful prosecutions.